my mom were basically banking on me to save the family. We need you to get a big signing bonus to like save our house and like the home you grew up in.
Consistency advice.
That's a good question. If you're inconsistent in multiple things, you inherently will be that way with everything.
Do you budget?
No. I literally have never budgeted. My philosophy has always been just make more money.
When you pass, what do you want to be known for?
You know, somebody who grew the kingdom. Doesn't matter about money. It doesn't matter about how many businesses or net worth. How much did I help the kingdom grow?
What's going on, everyone? My name is Gina.
And Scott.
And we're with the Dream Big, Sweet Living podcast. And today we are super excited. We have Ryan Pineda on our show, and we're so excited to have him. So Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Excited to be here again. I'm looking for Cash. I don't see him.
He's out there.
Somewhere.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
We just want to say we're so grateful. You know, you're a future billionaire. We know it. We're just grateful for you to, you know, give us your time, and we appreciate all you've done for us since we joined like All-Star and
Yeah.
just your program in general.
Yeah. No, I'm excited just with how much you guys have already done in a short period of time. And, you know, the exciting thing is you've done it, you know, in a tough market, and it's literally like, this is the hardest stuff you're going to go through.
Yeah.
You know, it's only going to keep getting easier.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you, so how lucky are we to have you on our podcast?
You know, Jonathan was saying, you know, we had to make sure the check cleared because, no, I don't do a ton of podcasts because obviously, you know, I'm filming my own and, you know, people ask me to speak at events and other stuff a lot. But as you know, we got our own events. And so it's tough. It's a tough balancing act of like, hey, you know, I'm concerned first and foremost with, you know, my communities and my companies and like making sure those are good. And then, you know, if we got time, then, you know, I'm going to also then do things like this that's within the community. And then if I have time for people outside of it, then we'll do it. But I'm always happy. So anytime, especially when it's across the hall. So it's not, you know, it's good.
So I wanted to know, have you tried urine yet?
Dude, you know, it's interesting. If I did, I wouldn't tell you. And if I didn't, you know, well, no, actually, if I do start doing it, I will tell people and I'll get judged and it's all good. But no, I have not done it yet. And I think the reason why is I've actually been kind of like sick for the last few weeks. You know, I lost my voice in Mexico and, you know, just all these different things. So I don't really want to try it when I'm sick. But maybe it would have miraculously healed me. Maybe I should try it. But I think I want to test it like against a like normal, hey, like, okay, this is how I feel normally. Let's see what happens. Are you interested in trying it? You going to do it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think most
I
people.
remember I did it when I was younger. Just, I don't know why.
Oh, you just got dared or something?
By myself.
Oh, you just tried to do it. Okay. Well, all right. That's even worse.
I know.
I
Is that why you are the way you are?
Yeah, that explains it.
So maybe you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm not going to do it. No, I'm going to try it at some point.
I wanted to ask like some questions. Like, what are you most proud of?
That is a good question. You know, I think growing up, I know that my dad found a lot of pride in owning a business. He was an entrepreneur. You know, he came from the Philippines and worked his way up as just a guy working at a gas station to managing the gas station to then opening his own convenience store. And I mean, me growing up, I never saw him go through that. I just, you know, I was like 8 years old and he had his own business. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't think anything of it. Like being an entrepreneur wasn't a thing. And him and my mom were still telling me, yeah, you know, you go to college and you get a good job and all that, right? But I know that like my dad had a great sense of pride owning his own business. And I saw what happened to him when he lost it in the Great Recession. And that was an interesting thing, seeing like a guy who was the American dream lose it and maybe even somewhat lose his identity a little bit of like, man, dude, like I can't provide for my family anymore. It's actually very heartbreaking. And for me, the more I've grown and, you know, become a dad, and I have 3 kids now, you know, you see, yeah, I guess I take a lot of pride in providing for my family and my kids and doing all the things we do. And then I take a lot of pride in, helping people like you and others provide for your family and quit jobs and, all the things that come with being a great entrepreneur. So I have a lot of pride in that. Like, I think that the family side of things is very important. And I think, when you look at like what makes up a great family, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously money plays a role. Time is a very important thing. And if you don't own your time, then that's kind of tough. And so I take a lot of pride in that.
Well, what did your dad do after all that happened?
Watching him struggle is what really pushed me to kind of like not make the same mistakes. So, he lost his business, around 2008, 2009. I was in college at the time, so I didn't really get to see it firsthand. I was away. But I remember him and my mom were, basically banking on me to save the family because I was playing baseball and, I was going to get drafted and like, dude, we need you to get a big signing bonus to like save our house and like the home you grew up in. So that's a lot of pressure. And, I didn't get drafted as high as we had hoped and they ended up losing the house. And so, this house that my dad had built, like he literally built it with his bare hands.
Wow. Is this the house on the same street that we live on?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yep. So he built that house in 1998. I was like 8 years old.
Wow.
And, we lost it in like 2010, 11, somewhere around then. So yeah, it was, watching him go through that. And then literally he just bounced around. Like he just picked up odd jobs wherever he could, doing construction, being a handyman. He literally never like bounced back. And inevitably what ended up happening was I started flipping houses in 2015. And in 2016, I started using him as a, handyman contractor on my flips. And so like, that was the first time he didn't have to like actually go look for work. I'm like, hey, just do this job for the next few months and you'll make some money. And then as time went on, I was able to get him out of like doing the actual work himself and just being an actual manager. And so around like 2018 or 2017, I just made him a full-time employee.
Yeah.
And he's loved it ever since. And like, he doesn't need to work. Like I could just, I pay all their other bills, like, so we bought him houses and like, they literally don't have a bill.
Yeah.
He chooses to work because he wants to contribute and add value. And he loves coming to the office and visiting property. Like, it's just what he loves to do.
That's awesome.
And he doesn't want to feel like a freeloader. Like he actually wants to earn and be a provider still. And so it's great. And but it is interesting, right? Like he never recovered.
So how does that feel? How does that make you feel knowing that you're able to give back in that way to your dad? Because I think that's so beautiful because I came from like a Section 8 mom. My mom was on Section 8 welfare and food stamps and she passed away. So I never got that chance to give back in the sense. So when I see you and hear that story that you're providing for your dad, it like makes me feel like all the fuzzies inside,
Yeah. And I don't tell it a lot because, I don't know. It's just like, I know stories are important to help people relate and take action and motivate, but I'm always like thinking so tactically. I'm like, all right, but that story, what can you take from it? Yeah, you can get hyped, but I'm like, hey, but how? What are we going to do? What's step one, And like, that's how my mind thinks. So I kind of like gloss through that stuff, but how it makes me feel, like it's awesome, but I can't say like, man, it's just this dream. It's just like the best feeling ever. Like I can't say it truthfully is. It's more so that I just knew it was going to have to happen. I knew just watching him and my mom that they weren't going to figure it out, that they had lost everything at, an older age and they had nothing saved. I had watched them go into so much credit card debt that, they were, and I didn't notice at the time when I was young, we were just living way above our means. They were just on credit, off credit and borrowing money. And that, shaped how I thought in my 20s because my wife and I were ultra frugal in my 20s. It may not seem that way now, but we were extremely frugal. Like I'd become a millionaire. I was still driving a $10,000 car, and we would never eat out anywhere over like $50 to $80. And, it wasn't until like I finally had years of making millions. And I was like, we could probably spend a little bit more, like we'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
And we started to enjoy life a little bit more and go on like first class. I remember I went on first class for the first time in like 2021.
Wow.
That experience growing up shaped me to live the high life. It's not even the high life. It's not like we grew up in first class or anything, like spent way more than we should have, like my family went on vacations, if I wanted like a new baseball glove, I got it. You've seen the house, like it was a good house, but in hindsight, it's not like it was like it's not in Summerlin or like, this crazy rich area. It's just like a nice big house.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very middle class, but even in middle class, they shouldn't have been middle class. They actually weren't doing that good.
I think that's a problem with a lot of people. Like
they were the typical American family.
Yeah.
Living way above their means, for sure.
So that brings a good question right now. So do you budget?
No. I literally have never budgeted.
Wow. Okay. So who takes care of like all your finances in your personal life?
Me. No, my philosophy has always been just make more money. So like today I don't budget, but even back then I didn't budget. I just understood where I was at.
Yeah.
It was like even when we had our first 6-figure year, I remember when I got started flipping houses, I was flipping couches. She was a school teacher making $40,000 a year. She was the like consistent income, like, yo, dude, we got insurance. She makes $4,000 or well, not even $4,000 a month, close to it, every single month we're good. And I was like, so anything I make flipping couches is like our savings because we were living off like $3,000 a month. Like we did not spend money. And I remember we had our first 6-figure year. My second year flipping houses, we made $200,000. And I literally thought we were the richest people ever. I was like, dude, we still live on $3,000 a month. We upped our living a little bit to like $4,000 a month, but I'm making, $20,000 a month almost. And so you start to look at it and like, I never raised my lifestyle. I was just like, yeah, I'm watching my bank account grow and I'm reinvesting into new deals and, all this stuff, but my lifestyle didn't grow. I just knew like $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month is way below what I could be living.
Yeah.
And then, my third year we made $750,000. And at this point, on $750,000, you could live any way you want.
Yeah.
And I still was really frugal. We lived in a $200,000 house.
Wow.
What else did we do? Like I said, I had a $10,000 car. She had a 2007 Toyota Camry. This is back in 2017. It's not like that long ago, making that kind of money.
Yeah.
And we really just never spent money. It was just us two. We didn't have kids yet.
Yeah.
So, I always knew we were always good. And even like, as I started to like live the high life, still it's like 50 to 70 grand a month. That's what I would guess.
Wow.
We spent if I was thinking about it. It's probably more, but let's just say it's like 60 grand a month. Like that's 700 grand a year-ish. I know I make more than 700 grand a year.
Yeah.
So like, I'll be fine.
And that's just living your normal life, spending that much, like your mortgage.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah. Cause like if I do the math, it's like, all right, my mortgage is like $220,000, I got golf memberships. I got car payments, kids ain't cheap.
Yeah, they're expensive.
3 kids ain't cheap. Mindy, she likes nice things. She ain't cheap. I see boxes from Amazon every day. The electric bill's pretty high from what I've seen. But, we go on vacations and we do nice stuff and it's not that big of a deal. In comparison to most people, I actually am very frugal because guess what? Even if I made $1 million and I lived off 70%. Like that's still like far like better than most people. Most people like live beyond what they make.
Yeah.
They're negative.
Yeah.
Right? Like a good habit is, okay, you live off 80%, you give 10%, you save 10%. That's like a traditional thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, for my whole life, once I started making money on most years, this was a bad year, but most years I was literally living off like 10% of my income because not that I was like trying to pinch pennies and like save, but because I was just so good at making money. I'm just like, I would rather make more money than worry about saving money.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But we all have that choice because think about it. Like this is what annoys me about Dave Ramsey. And I like Dave just because he's a Christian and because, he's done amazing things and he's helping a very certain demographic of people who cannot make money because they just don't have the mindset to do it. They're on fixed income and they always will be, regardless of how much you try to get them off of it. So that's fine. For me, I'm going after people who realize that, no, actually, you're not capped. Quit thinking this is what you make. Instead,
I was gonna say that was like our first introduction was Dave Ramsey. We taught FPU at church. And so like that's where I got to see people's finances and stuff. So I opened my eyes to how the normal person was living.
Yeah, and look, I get it. If you are working a job, you have no ambition to like get a side hustle or create your own business and quit, then yeah, I get it. You have no choice but to save if they're not going to give you a promotion or whatever the case is. It sucks. I don't think you have to think that, but if you choose that path, then sure, that is the path. But my thing has always been like, you know what? Instead of spending all this brain power budgeting and thinking how I'm going to save an extra $1,000 this month, it's actually easier for me to think about how I'm going to make $1,000.
Yeah.
It's way easier.
Yeah.
I could just like look on Craigslist for a couple hours a day and I can make $1,000 flipping something easily each week. And that would be better brain power than thinking how I'm going to save and budget. So I said, why am I ever going to waste time budgeting? I'll just use that same amount of time to go figure out how to make money.
That's genius.
Yeah.
So what do you like want to achieve in business wise? What's your big goals?
Every year my goal changes. Like it's changed from year to year. And I was talking to Brian about this on my podcast just now because the whole theme of that podcast was goal setting, and getting people ready for 2024.
Yeah.
And, basically like what was interesting, at least in the finance side of my goals, I didn't have any real estate goals. And he's like, hey, you didn't mention any real estate stuff. And I said, well, yeah, early on when real estate and house flipping was like all I was doing, I had lots of real estate goals. It's like, hey, I'm going to flip 100 houses this year. We're going to make this much money doing that. And I'm like, that was great. And then when I started to grow on social media, one of my goals was like, hey, I just want to get X amount of followers or whatever, because that was the main focus of that year. I knew if I got that many followers, the revenue and the money would come. And, going into this coming year, obviously I have lots of different businesses. It's not just, hey, how's my house flipping business doing? Hey, how's this doing? Like, I don't have a goal of, hey, I need to go get this many rental properties. It's not even a great market to buy rental properties right now. So why am I worried about making that a priority this specific year? Doesn't mean it's not going to be a big goal 2 years from now, but this specific year, at this point in my life, these are the most important things I need to accomplish at this given point in time. And that's how people need to start thinking. So yeah, like for me this year, goals wise, it was just like accumulation of all the businesses together. I'm like, hey, our goal is we want to hit 50 million in revenue. That's our goal across everything. And we've never hit that before. Like if we hit that, it would be like a best case scenario. We absolutely crushed it. Would I be happy if we hit half that? As long as we maintain the profit margin I'm trying to maintain, then yeah, I'm going to be really happy, even if we're half that. And so, for me, I just kind of now look at the totality of my businesses and it's like, hey, that's the goal.
Gotcha. So I hear you talk a lot about work culture. Did you pull a lot of your inspiration from Tony Hsieh? Because I see it, and I worked for him for 7 years. So
Okay.
I feel
Yeah.
it's
That's
interesting.
good.
Yeah.
No, not really. I've read the book. What is it? Like Something of Happiness?
Delivering Happiness.
Yeah. And we actually did a tour there back in 2018 or 19.
Okay.
And that was when I only had like 6 employees,
Yeah.
So, but I understood. I was like, all right, people say Zappos is the best place. Let me go see what's up here. And, it was cool.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't really take it from there. To me, it always just seemed like I never worked a job, so I couldn't tell you like what bad environments look like. But I guess I did work a job because I played baseball. So like, playing professional baseball to me, the locker room was our culture. And I've been in locker rooms where it was just negative and terrible. And I've been in locker rooms that were fun and we were winning. And so, you know, I just wanted to create a culture where it was like, yo, we can hang out. People like each other. This is great. And so that was the goal. And, you know, as I've grown, I've realized like, okay, I see why people do corporate things because you actually do need that. Before it was very like, hey, bro, just show up whenever you feel like it and just get your work done. But people don't operate that way. So, yeah, culture is something we've had to, I guess culture's always been around, but it was structure that later on I realized was really needed.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was yesterday, your call, or last week, I don't remember when it was, but you said you were trying to figure out how to measure culture. And so I did some digging, and
What'd you find?
what we did at Zappos was we had a Cultric survey, and we would send it out to the employees, and then the employees would take, there'd be different questions, but it would be like more culture related. And then they would hire a third party surveyor. So they would analyze all the data, and then that's how they would measure culture. But they were, at the time when I was there was about 1,500 employees. So they had more.
They had more numbers to pull from.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how it would work. How many employees do you have?
I don't know our total now, but it's got to be like over 80. But, you know, I would say maybe half are in-house. The other half are, well, actually, you probably have more than 40 between both offices. So, yeah.
Have you started businesses that failed?
Many. Yeah. It's a lot of businesses. You know, here's the thing, right? Like, I'm not afraid to take a risk. So many people are so scared to fail. And for me, I'm more scared to be complacent and to have regret because I would much rather know I tried something and it didn't work and have learned the lesson than to just continue on some path I'm on and then have this like, man, I wonder if this would have been better. I wonder if, you know, we could get a better return if we just did it this way. And then like, I'm just too scared to try something new. I literally have 0% fear to try something new. I will throw money at it. I will throw time at it. Maybe I'll risk my reputation too much at it. But like at the end of the day, I mean, I'm born in Vegas. I'm going to go down gambling and I'll test it out. I played baseball. I'm going to go down swinging, you know, trying to hit a home run. And I mean, sometimes you strike out and it is what it is.
Yeah. So when you have like all these business opportunities that you're analyzing to start, how do you like pray about it? Like, what's your process of wanting to just go all in?
I'll say now that I've been in business longer, you keep learning new things. And now I have track record of what hasn't worked, what has worked, you know, would I have done it in hindsight now? You know, so like it's changed as, you know, you just get more and more experience, which is how it should be. You should always be constantly like learning and thinking like, oh man, dude, what was I thinking? That was dumb. So yeah, I would say thought process these days is very different than maybe 3 years ago when I was busy just starting a bunch of stuff. Number one today, it must already be a bigger opportunity than what currently exists. So I'm not going to go start a laundromat. Like, even if it can make 200 grand, I don't care. Like, why? It's just way more headache. I got to go learn a new industry.
Yeah.
I could go make 200 grand today in the current business doing something. So why?
Yeah.
That's stupid. So I'm not going to do anything if it's a smaller opportunity. Second thing, at least for me today, is it needs to, I don't want to say vertically integrate, but it needs to already like stay within the skill set. And so, for instance, where one of our Pineda Media clients, he is a lawyer and very successful, and he's starting lawyer education. And he's really wanted to partner up. And, you know, I like him. He's a hustler. He's got everything that's needed to succeed. He just, you know, he don't know how to run education business. It's, you know, there's a lot that goes to it to make it successful. And so we agreed to partner with him to run it. Now I said, look, here's the deal. Like, I'm not promoting this thing. Like, I'm not going to like recruit lawyers, but we can use our expertise on everything else and creating offers and products and events and sales teams and marketing. We can do all that. Oh, wow. And so that's what we're going to do because the opportunity is big. The lawyer space is massive. I think that if we can get all these lawyers in the program, it's going to be great for me raising money because they're making money.
That's smart.
I think it's untapped. There's not like many people doing it. Like I said, it already integrates into our skill set. So I don't need to like, yeah, they're lawyers, but it's not really the lawyer business. It's education. And like some people hearing this might find it offensive or whatever else, but I don't really care. So one thing I have found as a Christian is that, you know, there's lots of people that you guys can align with morally, but maybe they're not Christian, right? Like, hey, this guy has integrity and, you know, whatever else, right? But the reality is they still don't believe what you believe in the grand scheme of things, which is the most important thing. And, you know, the Bible talks about being equally yoked. And, you know, I've been a Christian a long time, and I always thought that that meant, you know, with just your spouse. That's how it's usually phrased. And, you know, as I was having just different issues in business and conflicts and everything else, I realized that pretty much every single one of them was coming from non-Christians. And, you know, I started talking to pastors about it and stuff, and they're like, well, yeah, it's because they're not equally yoked. You know, you're on a new path where you're being more bold and wanting to do certain things, and it's going to repel people who, you know, maybe they've been great to this point, but it's different. And I was like, that's exactly right. Like, that makes perfect sense to me. And so now it's just become more clear than ever that, like, hey, you know, if I'm going to put my name on it and I'm going to like build this thing and everything else, then we need to be equally yoked as believers. And if not, then I'll just start it by myself, and that's totally fine. Now, does everyone need to be a Christian to like come to our business? No, absolutely not. But does my partner need to be? For sure. I mean, that's like marriage.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, our employees don't have to be, the customers don't have to be, but the partner, the founder, whatever, they need to be. Now, would I take like an investor who's not Christian and everything else? Sure. So if they don't have control and they're in the minority and like they literally cannot do or influence the business for what I want to do, then I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're like have an equal partner, then there's going to be issues. And I'm at the point in my life where I don't need another business. Like seriously, like what's the point? Why would I give myself more headache with somebody like that? In terms of, and I've thought a lot about this and where we're going to take Wealthy Creator and, you know, everybody that's in, you know, that program, because most people in that program want to be coaches and, you know, build some kind of education arm. So obviously I can't be in 100 businesses in that front and really like devote time and energy to it. So, you know, once again, as far as like my partnership involvement goes, it's like it's on a case-by-case basis of the same exact path. I just, hey, what's the opportunity? How big is this? How big can it grow?
Yeah.
Okay, does it vertically align and integrate into what I'm doing? And, you know, what are their beliefs and values as partners, right? And by the way, even if I don't want to partner, doesn't mean we can't help, you know, like, because everything we're building, you know, we're giving to our students, like the landing pages, the templates, teaching them how to create offers and magnets and, you know, content and all the things. Like, they're going to have all the tools that, you know, we're creating anyways. What I would say too is, you know, there's like a different business model, which you're referring to, which is called being a publisher. And I've thought about this too, but like, think about like a book publisher. That's what they do. They just find talent. They have the systems in the back end to edit the books, create them, the covers, release them. They have relationships with the big, you know, publishers and all that stuff. They go and try and sell the book. Like, they handle all that, and then they take their cut and, you know, everything else, right? You see this in the education space too, because most influencers don't know how to run a business, right? They're just good at making content, which is fine. So guys like me who know how to do education would go to, you know, like these really famous people and say, hey, you know, why don't we make a course? We'll do everything. We just need you to talk about it.
Yeah.
And like, we'll make it revolved around you and your audience and what it is they want to learn from you. And so that's how we would do it. What I'll say is the publisher model is interesting. I know a few companies that do it and they put up big numbers. The publisher is the one who, in most of these cases, owns the majority of the company. So in most deals I see, the publisher could own anywhere from 90 to 70%. So like they're taking the lion's share, because you got to think about it. If a publisher, let's say they're trying to go get a real estate person. I'm not the only real estate person who makes content. Maybe there's 20 other guys out there that are doing pretty good on social media. Well, if I'm a publisher and I'm seeing that many of these people don't have anything, and I say, hey, let's partner, here's the terms, and they say no, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to just go talk to the next, they're the commodity, because there's very few people that know the back end.
What do you see your podcast doing? What's the goal for that? Do you want to be, is it more for getting you leads, or is it going to be try to like be more like a PBD type?
Yeah. Patrick and I have talked about that, because the first time I met Patrick was like maybe 2 years ago, and he was just asking me about my growth and when I started, and he's like, bro, you're like so far ahead of where I was. And he said that when he started Valuetainment, it took him like 3 years to get 4,000 subscribers. So you got to think about that. I mean, this is one of the biggest entrepreneur channels on YouTube.
Yeah.
They've been around for over 10 years, just figuring things out. And honestly, even with Patrick and PBD, he's really like gotten to this new level in the last year, where he launches his new podcast. He starts talking about politics. Like he even himself is now in year 12 hitting the rewards for putting in the work. It's just another lesson. What I try to always tell everyone at Wealthy Creator, I'm like, guys, trust me, dude. Yeah, I know. It's been 4 months and you're not excited about the results, but put in the work, because it does not happen overnight. And that's why, when I was telling Patrick, he said, dude, that's crazy. You did it that quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, like as far as my podcast goes, I was actually looking at the stats and figuring out my goals for 2024, but the podcast itself, it started in 2021. I don't remember what the exact number was in 2021 for like audio only, but let's just say it was like a few 100,000 is what we got like the first. And by then I was already like established from like TikTok and my other stuff. So it's not like I was starting from zero. And then 2022, we got close to 1 million audio downloads. And once again, we had the YouTube stuff, but this year in 2023, we'll end with like 2.5 to 3 million audio, not counting YouTube. And my goal next year is to get 10 million downloads. I think that we can do it. On the YouTube side of things, I don't know how many views and everything that will equate to as well. But, if I can get, those numbers, I mean, it's one of the top podcasts in the world. I mean, it's already one of the top in the world, but like in the top of the top, that is 0.00 whatever percent. And so, and this is my belief, and it's just like, I would say it's not an arrogant belief, but it's just what I think is the truth. If I really wanted to get there, I could. Like as far as, hey, this is all I do. This podcast, it's the only thing I'm focused on. Let's grow it to the maximum level. I could do it, but the problem is then I can't do the other things. I mean, you only have so much time in the day, right? So I got to like look at all this and say, okay, how important is the podcast with everything we're doing? How important is Wealthy Investor? How important is Pineda Media? How important is Wealthy Kingdom? How important is my house flipping business and, our apartments? We can only do so much. So where am I going to allocate all of my, brain power and energy? And, for the most part, I pick and choose each year of like what I feel like is the biggest opportunity or whatever God's calling me to do that specific year. And that's what I focus on. I think the podcast can get great results with me not really like having to go crazy with it. That's my belief.
So what kind of advice would you give us on trying to grow our platform of like YouTube and social media? Because right now I haven't been consistent, and And we're all over the place with our branding, I guess. Because like one day I'll post about Frenchies, the next day I'll post about our farm, and then the next day it's about flips. And it's just...
And to be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think to see diversity is good. I mean, I post about golf. I post about my family. I post about flips. I post about car. So I think that's great. The consistency part I don't like. Like that's rule number one.
Okay.
You have to be consistent. And if you're not, then you will get inconsistent results. It just is what it is. So consistency has to change. And consistency comes with mindset, right? Just having the long-term mindset of it. I mean, look, Patrick Bet-David, most would have quit 3 years and only a couple thousand subscribers. I was interviewing Michael Zuber. He's a real estate guy. And podcast I did with him actually got like maybe the most views I've ever got on one episode, which is random because he's like not the biggest guy I've ever interviewed.
Yeah.
But it's got like 300,000 something views on YouTube. I don't know how many downloads, but literally the reason that people loved it is because he was a normal 9-to-5 guy who built his portfolio working the 9-to-5. And then he ended up with like 200 units, just 10 a year, 10 here, 20 here. And we talked about that and people shared it because it's like, that's most people.
Relatable.
Yeah, most people aren't going to do what I did and be like, screw it, dude. Max out the cards and let's roll. So it makes sense in hindsight. But he's another great example of this because on the podcast, I talked to him. I go, hey, dude, I remember doing your show back in like 2016 or 17 because he just saw me on Facebook. I mean, he had been doing it a long time. And I go, you just hit 50,000, subscribers on YouTube. This was back then. And he was like super excited for it. And I was like, how many videos have you done? And his channel's called One Rental at a Time. And I'm looking it up right now, but we were looking it up live and it was an astronomical number of videos that he did before ever even getting anything. So right now he has 55,000 subscribers.
Okay.
So still like he's not growing at this crazy rate. And this is what he has done to this point. He has made 12,000 videos.
Wow.
On YouTube. Okay. 12,000. And I'm looking, so he started 5 years ago. So yeah, I mean, look, I filmed with him right when he started the podcast. And I mean, what's the math on that? 12,000 videos in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 12,000.
That's
it's crazy. Divided by 5. So that's 2,500 episodes a year.
Wow.
So let's just divide that by 365. That's 7 a day.
Wow.
He produced 7 podcasts a day.
Wow.
Now, his podcasts are like 20 minutes, 30, but still.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of filming, dude. This dude filmed literally for 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's the amount of work that he put in to get 55,000. Now, some people would look at that and I asked him I go, bro, is it worth it? Like, this is 5 years straight. I mean, 50,000 is great, but like, bro, you got 200 units. Like, you don't need to do this. Is it worth it? And he goes, bro, I love it. I love what I do. I don't do this because, he's like, I make like 200 grand a year with my course. It's not my engine. He's like, I just truly love putting out content. And I was like, dude, kudos to you. Because I couldn't do it. If I'm putting in that much work, my podcast better be with Joe Rogan's.
Yeah.
That's what my expectation would be. That's my point, right? Like guys like him, guys like Patrick, Joe Rogan, how long has he been podcasting? Forever. He was like one of the first. I was talking to Brandon Turner. He was here a couple weeks ago, and he was just telling me the story of how they started podcasting at Bigger Pockets and they thought they were late, 10 years ago. And he did the podcast for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And, he became very known from it. They didn't like have a ton of success off the bat, even though there was no competition. But even him, he leaves the podcast and he starts his own called Better Life. And he's been doing it now for a year. And he asked me, he goes, Ryan, what do you think I should do? Literally this. Hey, what do you mean, dude? You're like the OG of podcasting.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't need advice. No, he's like, no, I really do need advice. What do you think I should do? He's like, because I am not growing the way that I want to grow. Like when I was doing BP, we grew at this crazy rate. And right now, like, you know, yeah, I have a good following, but the podcast ain't anywhere near where it needs to be. I got to make a change. You know, I gave it a year, which is a smart thing. This is how you know someone's successful, but I'm going to look up. So, you know, his is called Better Life Podcast.
It's funny because we know Alex Felice, which is his
video guy. Yeah.
We did 3 syndications with him.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Brandon's amazing. He's like literally probably my top 3 favorite people in the world.
Nice.
And so right now he's got 8,000 or 9,000 subs almost. 600 videos. I mean,
on
dude,
YouTube. Wow. 600 videos.
you know?
Wow.
And this is a guy who's experienced the highest level of success, right? And so, yeah, I would be super discouraged too if I was him and like that was the result, you know? So he's like, what do you think I should do? He's like, everyone knows me for real estate. I love real estate. Obviously, I've got my fund and it's crushing. And he's like, but you know, I want to be like you and interview these other guys, like these business guys. I enjoy talking to them and stuff, but people don't resonate with it who follow me. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I think I'm going to go back to just mainly talking about real estate. And I go, do you like talking about real estate? I mean, you've been doing it for over a decade. So like, do you actually want to keep doing that for the next decade? And because that's the mindset you got to have if you're going to do this. I go, do you think you could talk about it for the next decade? And he goes, yeah. I was like, I think I would do like maybe 3 or 4 real estate and then 1 non-real estate. And I go, that's great. You know, you still kind of get your fix on not just only real estate, you know, but dude, you're the guy. You got a brand in real estate that very few have. You were so many people, including mine, you know, their first mentor, whether they knew it or not, or whether you knew it or not. You know, I go, you literally, I read your book and I was able to flip my first house. And so I go, dude, if I had that kind of like pull, I would just keep leaning into it. And you obviously enjoy it. You know, I told Pace Morby the same thing over a year ago. He's like, man, should I do this? And I was like, bro, do you like talking about real estate? He's like, I could talk about it 24/7. I'm like, then you're good. You know, my other friend, Sam, Faster Freedom, he is in the opposite end of the boat. He only talks about real estate. He's like, bro, I think I need to open up to a new audience. And I was like, well, you can. And it, you know, the pool in the pond is much bigger, but, you know, you'll have to just create different kinds of content and stuff and, you know, just be ready for that. And, you know, everybody's trying to figure out the next thing.
Yeah.
Thankfully for me, when I started my podcast, I just knew from the beginning. I was like, dude, I don't even like real estate that much, to be honest with you. Like, I'm good, but am I only going to talk to real estate people and just talk about real estate? Heck no.
Yeah.
You might as well freaking just take me now. Just put me with Jesus if I had to only talk about real estate. So I like talking about faith, so I talk about it a lot. I like talking about branding, so I talk about it a lot. I like talking about real estate. I talk about it as much as I like talking about it. You know, like I will talk about golf all day. I'll talk about sports. I'll talk about working out. I'm just a diverse human who is going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And I think that that brings in, obviously, a wide array of people who come for different reasons.
That's the reason why we started to follow you more, because we saw a bunch of your content. I was like, who is this guy? You know, always on my feed. And then you started to share your faith more. So then I was like, dang, this is the community that I want. So that's why once we sold our memory care home, I was like, okay, if our memory care home sells, we're going to invest into your program. And God worked his way and we're here now.
I love it.
It's crazy.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is it's not like I decided to start talking about faith to get more customers or clients or students. And, you know, it's just like, look, that's what I felt like God was calling me to do. And that's what I was going to do. And whatever happens, happens. That's the beauty of leverage. And when you don't have to do you have options to do what you want to do. Right. And it wasn't always that way. You know, it's like, when you're first starting out, it's like, yo, I got to do this. I got to flip these houses. Do you think I enjoyed flipping couches for all those years? Like, no, I was like, I'm doing this because I'm the best. I was the best. And I'm like, I'm going to crush my competition and be the best because this is the game I'm currently playing at this very moment. And I did it. And eventually I didn't have to. And then I got into flipping and I was like, all right, I'm going to crush all these guys in Vegas. They don't know who I am yet. I haven't like earned it, but I know who I need to crush and I'm going to just go put my head down and do it. And was it that I just loved renovating homes? No, I was just like, this is the next thing. Then when I got into social media, it was the same thing. It was like, do you think I liked making 2 TikToks a day? No, I just knew that was the cost to be great and to learn it quick and to get practice and do it. And there was no agencies, there was no coaches. It was me literally waking up at 5 a.m. every day to go make my 2 TikToks for the day, edit them myself, wing it, test, post, and then just see what happens. You know, I don't like scripting my YouTube videos out when I was making 10-minute videos. I didn't like walking through house flips and having to go do the tours and things. But I understood. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't like doing it, but I liked the result.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm like, I know what this is going to lead to. I like that. You know? It's like, I don't like eating healthy. I don't. You know, like when I eat my piece of crap meal prep, it's not like I like it, but I do it every day. So I like how I look.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people need to think about like, yo, as much as I like to say I'm not results-based, because I'm not, I'm like very process-driven and I can see the long term of it. I do need to like at least the result of what I'm going to get from doing this.
Do you ever plan to showcase a lot of like your philanthropy work or anything on your social medias?
You know, we were talking about that just now with Brian, because he's like, what's your goals? And, you know, we create wealth goals. So if people use the Wealthy Way app, they can start tracking their goals and, you know, it teaches them how to do it. But, you know, part of the worship section is, you know, for me, donating. And so I don't ever publicly talk about things I do on that side. But, you know, he's like, no, like, what's your goals? What's your goals? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you, like, one of my goals this year, I'm not going to say the exact figure, but it's to give 7 figures away. And, you know, it'll be a mix of many different things and all of that. But, you know, I kind of just do my giving in secret. I mean, the Bible talks about that. But I also understand the side of, you know, if it inspires people to do more, then, you know, so be it. If it comes up in a conversation like this, then all right, I'll talk about it, whatever. But that is one of the results-based things that do motivate me. But it's like, well, why even try to make 50 million? Because my life's good. Like, I don't need to, I have every car I've ever wanted. Like, I have the house I want. I have, like, what else am I going to buy? I can't buy anything. So, you know, in the end, it becomes, all right, well, for a lot of people, they end up losing the motivation to make money once they hit a financial freedom number or a certain whatever. Whereas me, I'm like, oh no, we're going to freaking ramp it up. You know, we're going to take this to the next level, but it's not for me to buy more stuff. It's for things like that. Because I know if, you know, I get this good at making money and building wealth, what's the byproduct of that? What's the end result beyond me? Well, how many more people do we employ and put into the culture, and whose families' lives change? How many more students' lives change? How big can we throw these events? How much, you know, how many bigger speakers can I get? How many, you know, how much more money can I donate to whatever? You know, how many churches can we build? You know, last year, one of the things we did, like, once again, I don't really talk about it, we bought a church.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it's not even in Nevada. And, you know, one of our pastors was, you know, they said they got this great property and, you know, it just came up for sale and they needed to make a decision on it quick and they needed X amount of money to buy the church and put the down payment and renovations and everything else. And he's like, dude, like, you know, maybe you'll buy it and, you know, you could lease it back to us and, you know, all these different things. And I was like, dude, you know what? I'm just going to, you guys get the loan. I'll just fund the down payment and the renovations and you just take it. You can't do that if you're broke. You know, like you can only do it if, you know, you're making money and you're being a good steward. And so for me, that's what motivates me more than anything. And if I get around all these other wealthy people, giving my own money is one thing, but I also know how to raise money. And so, with the things we're doing at Wealthy Kingdom, I'm going to be hitting up people for money once we get nonprofit status. And I'm going to say, hey, you need to quit being freaking tight with your money and give it to me. Okay. It's a tax write-off.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to go do with it. I'm going to do it all. Don't worry. Just give me your money.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only is it like about me making more money, but if I can grow and influence, what does that do? It opens up more doors to raise money to go do even more things.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
That makes me want to go make a lot of money now and like ask people for money.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, Christians have this whole thing of like, I don't want to be money driven and you can't love both God and money. And it's like, well, hold on. It depends. What's the focus, right? Because there's lots of wealthy people in the Bible.
Yeah.
Solomon was the most wealthy person to walk the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dude was like a trillionaire in his time. There's lots of wealthy people in Acts that funded the churches and the disciple. How do you think these disciples did their mission? Somebody's funding them. Mm-hmm. Some of them had side hustles. Paul made tents for a living. Like that was his side hustle to support his ministry. I got lots of friends that I've grown up with over the years that are now full-time, missionaries. And they hit me up because they know what's going on. And for them, it's like, I look at it and they're like, dude, I need really what I'm trying to raise is $4,000 a month for the year. That's our living expenses for the year to do everything we need to do, me and my wife and our kid and everything. I'm like, $4,000 a month. I remember those days. That's very recent to me. And, well, now there's inflation. So it definitely don't go the way it was back then. But, they're like, yeah, we're having a tough time raising money and getting support. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, $4,000 a month. Okay. That's like $50,000 a year. I could do one real estate deal and solve their problem. Wow.
Yeah.
And they're going to go over here worrying about raising money, trying to find people and all this stuff. And I could literally solve it like that if I just get one more deal. Mm-hmm. And, it's enough things like that where you start to think the kingdom has many people building it, serving a different purpose. Some people are meant to go and, be the missionaries and the boots on the ground and do those things. Some people are meant to be the pastor of a big church. Some people are meant to be in the marketplace, doing ministry at their job.
Yep.
And then some people like me are meant to do whatever it is I'm supposed to do, whether it's talking about it on social media, whether it's building out the organizations themselves, whether it's raising money on behalf of the church, whether it's just using my own money to, fund all these different things. I mean, I've got a wide range of things I can do. It's just a matter of I have to continue to grow to be able to use them.
Do you see yourself speaking at church?
I mean, one day maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's like when you ask me, do I see myself speaking at church as far as a one-time thing? For sure. I mean, that's already happened. But do I see myself being a full-time pastor of a church and doing things? I mean, one day, you never know. Do I see God calling me to do it anytime soon? No. Would I do it? Yeah. If he called me to do it, I would do it because that's just what he's called me to do. And I would do it. But I don't think that's what he's calling me to do. I think it's already very clear what I need to do. And, I'm in this specific place for a reason. And there's very few people that can reach entrepreneurs, especially at the secular level. Mm-hmm. One thing that's become clear to me is there are events right now for Christians specifically. It's hey, that financial piece, good example, right? Hey, this is how you should handle your money. This is how, and everybody just gets together and that's cool. Who's reaching, the sinners? Who's reaching the people that are lost, So for me, it's a thing like WealthCon, which obviously we have faith incorporated into it, but it's not marketed as this Christian event. Mm-hmm. It's a business event.
Yeah.
And then I bait and switch you, and there's a worship service out of nowhere, and you're like, what? You're like, what just happened? Yeah. And most people, it's the first time they've ever been to a church service in years, and they didn't even know that, whoa, this music's actually really cool. They just don't know. Mm-hmm. And so I can just give them a little taste of what it's like and introduce it, people listen to my podcast and they're listening for the business tips. And then guess what? They got to deal with all the other stuff I'm going to tell them too in between. And you hear it enough times, you finally start to think like, man, you know what? Maybe I am missing the point. The Bible talks more about money than any other subject for a reason, because it's harder. Like it's the thing that God knew was going to control us more than anything else. It's not lust. It's not, pride. It's money. And money creates all those different emotions, anger, greed and all that stuff. It's harder for a rich person to enter the kingdom than anyone else, because rich people think they got it all figured out. And they're not going to go listen to somebody who's, just some pastor or just some, person who's not doing as good as them. So for me too, even as like a status thing, it's like, man, I can pretty much step in any room and have authority to speak with whoever and be a peer at the very least, and in most cases, a mentor and an authority over somebody else, and they're going to listen to what I have to say. And so if I can come to them and say, well, look, dude, I already know what it's like to have all the things you want, and you're still going to feel the same way. It ain't going to do anything for you. It's different versus, somebody else who just is like, dude, you hear about Jesus? Yeah. And they're like, dude, I don't need it. So it's just different. I just know, like, as I get up into higher echelons of business people, I've had conversations with, some of the biggest people you see online that are not Christians, and we talk about faith, and I'm only able to plant the seed just because of what I've achieved, not because of, anything else. That's the only reason I'm in the room.
Yeah.
What's your favorite scripture?
It always changes. When I was growing up, my favorite scripture was Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest. Like a harvest of blessing. And honestly, I think it was kind of like money driven at the time when I was young, and I learned, I'm like, yeah, at the proper time, I'm going to get the blessing. But, as I got older, I realized it's like, no, like it may not be the blessing on this earth, but you're going to get a blessing for eternity when you just keep staying on the course. And so it's like, don't get tired doing the right things.
What's your favorite book?
The Bible, but if I'm not going to use the Bible, everything like way down below, past that. Most of the books I read are very like tactical books. I can tell you the book that's speaking to me the most this season of life was Patrick Bet-David's new book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. That actually kind of lit a new fire under me to like actually embrace that there are enemies that I'm battling. And I've always known that because I'm a competitor, but I don't think of them as enemies. I'm just like, it's rivalry more so. But, the more that I read the book and started thinking about it, I'm like, no, it's true. Like, you've got these guys out here on social media telling people the wrong things, and they have massive influence, and they're telling people God's not real, that you need to do this. And they're leading so many people down the wrong road. And that's a big problem. And who's going to fight that enemy? And so for me, it got me like really motivated again of like, all right, it's time to slit some throats and go to war, baby.
What's your favorite podcast?
This year, I have not really listened to podcasts. Once again, that's always changing too, depending on the season of life. I remember when crypto was hot, I was listening to a bunch of crypto stuff and, Bitcoin stuff. And when I was trying to get good at golf, I was listening to a lot of golf podcasts. And for years when I was in real estate, it was Bigger Pockets. But the last one I did listen to was Craig Groeschel. So, he's great.
What is your favorite business that you built right now?
Wealth Investor. Yeah, I love everything we're doing there. To see all the students and, over the years now of doing it, it's interesting because I never wanted to be a guru, and to see how many people have, had their lives change, and then to like meet the people at WealthCon every quarter and just like hear updates, people that signed up the quarter before and now they got a deal, and that's crazy. Like, you really like start to think about your first deal, because it was a long time ago. And I'm like, man, dude, that first deal, that's what like made it real. And that's what made me believe that, oh yeah, I could do this.
What is your favorite food?
Ube.
Ube.
That one I can tell you instantly.
Consistency advice.
That's a good question. I would say a good thing with consistency, you asked about books too. So I think habits are the thing that breed consistency. And so like if you were to look at, Atomic Habits, that's obviously a good book for thinking about. I haven't even read in years, but I was just like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense of actually why I am consistent, because I was implementing a lot of the things he was talking about. But yeah, I would say it starts with your habits. Like you want to be consistent, make every part of your life consistent. And what does that mean? It means taking everything you do to as similar as the day before as possible, right? So it's like, hey, do you work out in the morning? Always work out at that exact time. Not, hey, I work out every day. Some days it's at 8, some days it's at 7, other days at night. No, it's this time every day, right? I don't miss. Food. It's like, dude, I eat the same stupid meal prep every day at lunch. The great part is I don't even think about it. Jonathan just brings it to me. I crush it real quick and I'm done. The snack I eat, it's around the same time every day. It's as consistent as it can be because, I got a podcast and, everything else, but I didn't miss that meal because I had back-to-back stuff. I went and crushed it for 2 minutes and then I hopped in here because my diet's consistent. There's a reason Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. It's consistency. If you want to get to the extreme, I've had a morning routine for the last 7-8 years of reading my Bible, praying, now doing my app with The Wealthy Way. So it's like you start to create these consistent routines. At the office, it's the same. It's 9 to 5. If I don't get my work done, I should have did better. I was it was inefficient, and I got to learn how to either delegate better or not waste as much time as I was wasting. And so you want to be consistent. Start taking everything you do consistently, because most people are like, all right, I want to get more consistent with calling sellers, making offers. And it's only one little thing. And I'm like, it's all together. If you're inconsistent in multiple things, you inherently will be that way with everything.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, are you reflecting on your performance during the day? Or what you, no.
No, I mean, dude, I know, I go to sleep tired. I'm not, if I still have energy, I know probably I did something wrong. Because I gave it my all. I bounced from thing to thing. I mean, if I was to tell you today, I got to the office at 8, Wednesdays is the only day, I don't work out because I go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And we always have Wealthy Kingdom on Wednesdays. And so, December is the only month we take off. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this extra time this morning? So what did I do? I said, hey, sales team, meet me at the office when I would have been with Wealthy Kingdom anyway, and I'm going to train you guys for the next hour.
Nice.
So I trained them. And then, so I talked for an hour then. I then had a Wealthy Creator Challenge for 2 hours. So I talked for another 2 hours. Then I had an hour-long meeting with our marketing team. So I talked for another hour. Then I just did a 2.5-hour podcast with Ryan. So I talked for 2.5 hours. My throat hurts too. And then, I just finished an hour with you guys. So literally I've been talking, it's 4 from the last 8 hours straight.
Wow.
Without really a break. And if I was not going to Bullhead City right now to go pick up Mindy's new Hummer.
I heard. Yeah, we heard.
Yeah.
We're excited about that.
Yeah. Then, I would be probably doing something else in the next hour. So I do not miss, I don't have to reflect.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I left it all out there. There's not any waste.
When you pass, what do you want to be known for?
Somebody who grew the kingdom. That's it. Doesn't matter about money. It doesn't matter about how many businesses or net worth or whatever. It's how much did I help the kingdom grow?
Who is someone you want on your podcast?
It would be cool to have Elon. I think that would be a good one. Some of these big pastors, I know I'll get them. I just haven't really tried, So a few of those guys like Furtick and Craig Groeschel and others would be good. Athletes I looked up to growing up would be amazing. Guys like LeBron or Jordan or Ken Griffey Jr., So just kind of really, really big, iconic type people. And then I think, even some of these Hollywood guys like The Rock would, Kevin Hart, those kind of guys. Because in the entrepreneur world, I've already met them all. So there's not anything else to really accomplish.
How do you feel about the A's coming to Vegas?
It's exciting. I feel like I'm destined to own them. Just, it's like I got drafted by them.
Yeah.
They're coming to Vegas.
That'd be a full circle. Crazy.
That would be full circle. I wasn't good enough to actually play for them, so I'll buy them. So
It's better.
yeah. So I think if God wills it, then, that'll be part of the story. But I mean, it's not like, Gary Vee has his like goal to buy the Jets and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's not like that. But I just feel like, hey, it's definitely not impossible. It's actually probably like pretty good odds.
Yeah.
If I had to really guess.
Yeah.
At least in like a minority, like in some level of capacity, I actually think the odds are really high.
Yeah.
Now, would I be like the majority owner? Like then, that's tough. But, like Patrick Bet-David just got some ownership in the Yankees. I don't know how much he owns, probably like a sliver.
Yeah.
But still, that's pretty much, I would say, guaranteed.
Yeah. How long does it take you to do your hair in the morning?
Literally like 2 minutes. There's no blow dryers. Just put the gel in, couple of combs, and we're off.
What brand gel do you use?
I actually use my friend. His name's Alex Costa. He's a really big YouTuber and TikToker. He's got like millions and millions of followers, and he created his own line.
Yeah.
It's called Forte. They're good, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check them out.
Yeah.
Oh, they're legit, dude.
Last question from Deliza. She wants to know your skincare routine.
I've always had good skin. You know what's funny is, so growing up, somehow I avoided puberty. And I didn't have acne. Obviously, I didn't have a beard. I didn't have any of that stuff. And so, whatever, it was cool. Like, my skin was always fine. And then during COVID, somehow I got acne. And it was weird. It was like on my back and all this stuff. And they're like, dude, yeah, what you have is adult onset acne. It's like very rare.
Wow.
It's like, what the heck? How? And they're like, dude, it's a rare thing that happens. Sometimes it's like stress. Sometimes it's just, I don't know. Because I was like, I ain't dirty. I shower like twice a day. Okay. And I have for a long time. And, I ended up getting on Accutane. And I was like, dude, I'm on like this freaking 13-year-old drug trying to get rid of my acne. And they were like, no, honestly, like, dude, you're not going to be able to put on muscle. You might feel like very depressed and suicide. Like, they're like, these are some side effects just to watch out for. Well, that sounds great. So I ended up taking it, and I definitely felt it. I was like, bro, this sucks. But I, once again, wanted the result. I was like, this sucks, but I'm just going to do it. And it's like a 6-month process.
Wow.
And yeah, I got rid of the acne, and I was like, wow, that was good. So I got off of it and got jacked again. And, I ended up, being fine, but I still was having acne on my arms. And so I actually did start to like research, and I was like, how do I get rid of this? And she was like, well, you can get these chemical peels and stuff. And, so I started going to the dermatologist, and they were doing these chemical peels. And she's like, do you want a vampire facial? And I was like, what is it? Like, we just like prick your face and like we smear your blood.
Yeah, I've always wanted that.
And I was like, I'll try it. And so I tried it, and literally for like 2 days, I just had blood on my face, like walking around like I just murdered somebody. And dude, it was scary. Later on, people told me you actually don't need to do that to get the same effect. But anyways, I say all of that because none of those things really like were that effective. At this point, all I do is I just use Dove body wash. And then on my arms, I actually get this Dove oatmeal scrub. Dude, it's like $10 on Amazon. And I just scrub it on the areas that like my arms get little acne. And it literally doesn't, like, it just prevents everything.
Thank you for joining us on this podcast. It's a big blessing just for you to spend some time with us.
Yeah.
We're very thankful.
Appreciate it.
And we just want to say thank you, like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. And that's it.
Peace.
See you guys.